Thank you so much for that introduction, Todd. Really appreciate that. And I'm super excited to be here. This has been this is day 3 now, so 3 days. But I was especially looking forward to this panel because for me, it's sort of the easy part. I get to just ask some questions, and like everybody else, I get to learn, but be up on stage while I'm learning. But I wanted to start off with some introductions. I think that was a really good basic introduction for both of you, but I think it'd be great for everybody to know a little bit more about both of you. And I'll give a little bit of an intro for me. As Todd mentioned, I'm the founder of ProductCollective, which is really a community for product people. So it's, we have a Slack channel with 1,000 different product managers on it. We have a weekly product brief, and we do 2 webinars a month, and all of that's free. Of course, we do put on this conference every year called Industry, which takes place in the fall. Some of you, I know, see some familiar faces. Some of you have actually been there. A couple people have actually been past speakers. So we're excited for that. We're excited to work with Pendo on that. But, Steve and Prabhakar, you both have been in product management for quite some time. Somebody referred to you, Steve, as the godfather of product management. I heard that got thrown around.
Indeed. That's our friend Alicia Dixon.
Alicia's awesome.
Alicia posted it, and I embraced it.
Maybe you could chat a little bit more about your background, and Prabhakar, I want to hear more about yours as well.
Please go ahead.
All right. Well, I've been around product management and Raleigh for quite a while. I used to come down here like every month or every other month and do training. And a few years ago, after spending 15 years at Pragmatic Marketing, I wanted to spend more time long term. And so I've been working with companies, a smaller number of companies over a longer period of time, with skills development for individuals, and along the way I decided it was also time for me to get back in product management, so I now have a software product for product managers, and I'm going through an amazing amount of frustration in dealing with developers. Anyway, that's pretty much what I'm doing. So I have software, and I have services, and I have a new book coming out shortly. And if you'd like to check on any of those things, go to under10playbook.com/Pendo, and there's an offer page for that.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
And Prabhakar.
Before I talk about it, I did check out this product yesterday, the alpha version. Very, very intriguing. So definitely you can check out the software product.
More of a beta version.
More of a beta.
Beta.
Wonderful. Well, I've been working with early stage startups and Series A, B stage, helping them with growth consulting, so helping them across the funnel from lead, demand gen area all the way to retention, the entire product market funnel. And I also do growth product. So the practices I've learned through working consulting with these startups, I'm taking that and packaging it as a workshop. It's called a Growth Product Manager Workshop. My partner here, Mickey, is also here. And so we do those workshops both in the public format as well as in the larger companies that want to systematize growth. So that's what I do. And as Todd mentioned, I do host a product meetup in Austin called Product Austin. We're always looking for exciting speakers there to come. Todd's talk was one of the well-received talks there. Looking forward to sometimes Steve will come to Austin too and give the talk. So and we have clients both in Austin and San Francisco. So
yeah.
That's what we do.
And you say meetup, but I mean, there's been hundreds of people sometimes that will come to that event, right?
Oh, yeah. So
it's just
I think there were about 200 people for Todd's talk, and I think normally we have somewhere between 150 to 300 people.
That's awesome.
So,
that's
cool.
Really, really cool. Oh, and maybe Prabhakar, we could start with you because we had a chat about this a little bit yesterday, but. A lot of people in the audience here, their title is product manager. I saw it on the screen yesterday. Somebody had it up on a slide. I think it was like 1/3 of the people here. It's the #1 title for people in the room. So
yeah,
that's great, right? We like being product managers, but for folks that are product managers, probably thinking about our progression, and how do we move on, and maybe it's VP of product, maybe it's moving on to other things. For folks that are thinking about their career progression like that, where do you see the field moving? Like what do you see happening now, but what should folks be aware of as things kind of start going along in the next few years here?
Sure. So from a macro trend perspective, I think there are 3 things happening, and it's all related to design. When you say what is design is like something you do on purpose and intent and it expresses itself in form, function, and interaction, things like that. And the three macro trends I see are, one is experience design. In Todd's keynote, he talked about how the experience is curating the experience all the way from onboarding through the retention aspect, right? That experience design. I would actually stretch it even further from the onboarding and go to how do people even find you, right? The people that find you in this channel, in this place, have probably a different sensitivity to how they walk into the funnel and all the way to retention versus people who, sometimes you're delighted by the way you find products, right? So even the findability of the products. So curating this experience all the way, that's experience design. It's very critical. So product managers should be focusing on how can I enhance that experience. That's a macro trend. The second one is business design. And most people here are using Pendo, I think. So you're probably already up in that maturity curve in terms of changing your products and services to SaaS. And Jeff Lash talked about the service design, right? And I would say the SaaSification of those services, and it's fundamentally different from what people have learned about product management. Like if you had attended your 2001 class, I would guarantee that class did not have any context or any content necessary for operating a business today. You probably never heard CAC, you never LTV, you never heard any of the financial modeling related to how business is run today. So the business model design completely disrupts any product management education of the past. So the education for product management is totally different from what you would get from a 15-year-old framework, right? That's the second one. And I think the third one is service design. And we had a conversation with product manager from Aprimo this morning about service design and how you can plug in search services and things like that. So things like API and audible services. There's so many services. Like, how many have heard here Zapier? Anybody heard Zapier? Like if I launched a product today and if it didn't have Zapier integration, how would you feel about that, right? And so service design is extremely critical in how quickly can an individual user of the product go and click something and connect with the already existing ecosystem of products you're using in your existing workflows and not asking you to go back and recreate that service or recreate all the integrations, put the tax on the developer to go and do that, right? So experience design, business design, and the service design, all three have changed in how a product manager operates today compared to what they were operating yesterday. And whether they have the knowledge, whether they have the training, whether they have the intellectual curiosity to go and, I think those are the trends. And no matter where you are, whether you're in a small company doing the product management work or in a large company, if you don't have these three trends baked into your practice, it's going to be very hard to be a successful product manager.
Right? Those are great. Steve, do you want to add on top of that?
I'm kind of reluctant to, but I do want to come back to the business thing. It seems to me over the last few years, product managers have become more technical and less business oriented. And the conversations I have in Silicon Valley are just laughable. They don't even comprehend the non-engineering aspects of product management. And I've been challenging people for the last few years to look beyond the software and think through this whole customer experience, business design thing. And what's brilliant about the product managers I know who are like business oriented are the ones that become VPs of product management or VPs of marketing or CPOs. And many of them become entrepreneurs. I don't have any stats on this, but I feel certain that a lot of the great products we're seeing today come from people who have a product management background of some kind. As we, I think, heard from Todd earlier. He never took the class, but anyway, I'm not going to let go of that. That's going to fester for a while. So, but anyway, I challenge those of you who are thinking of making product management a career to look beyond the software aspects and being co-developers, or if you will, secretaries to development, and be more focused on the business and the business experience.
So I want to go even deeper on that. There are, we all know product people where they are the, the best product people that we can even imagine. You know, you think top product person, or if a company's calling you and saying, hey, I need to hire a VP of product, there's probably some people that come to mind. I got to hire this person. What does that, you know, perfect product person look like? Like, I know there's this ongoing debate, like, oh, they have to be technical. And other people say, no, they don't have to be technical. Are they former entrepreneurs? Maybe could you go, because you started to hit on that. I'd love for you to go deeper on that.
Well, you know, I get a lot of calls from people who are looking for the perfect person, right? And I was talking to a recruiter friend of mine last year, and she said, oh, yeah, they're looking for a purple squirrel. And I'd never heard this term before. A purple squirrel is the person who perfectly matches the candidate's requirements because, you know, like salespeople, recruiters don't actually want to do any work, right? What they want to do is they look at this resume and they say, look, it says software on it. And they look at this job posting and they say, look, janitor at software company, software, right? It's a match, right? So she says she's constantly getting calls for a purple squirrel, which is they have domain expertise, they have business savvy, they have technical prowess, they have market knowledge or industry knowledge, and are willing to work for peanuts. That's the squirrel part.
And I haven't seen too many purple squirrels.
I have not. And, you know, I've seen presentations on, you know, the Superman product manager, and it's just like, who's got all that in their head? I mean, I would have to get rid of just decades of Star Trek trivia to make room for all the stuff that people expect in my head today, right? So I've been working with companies to say, let's not find a perfect person, let's build a perfect team. Yeah, we've got somebody who's strong in business, and that person can help the others with the business parts. We've got somebody who's strong in technical, and they can help the others with technical stuff. But to find somebody, well, I had a big argument in a conference last year in DC. This woman insisted, as VP of Product Management, that every one of her product managers have a computer science degree, preferably a master's. And I said, well, that's going to be great. That person ought to be a dev lead. But a product manager has a different skill set. So personally, I look for people who are smart and can get shit done, to quote Joel Spolsky.
What's your take on that, Prabhakar?
I'd have to agree with Steve on this. It's going to be hard to find the 10x product manager or the unicorn developer, you know, equivalent here.
Who's willing to work for peanuts?
Who's willing to work for peanuts. And the domain expertise is highly overrated. I think the number one skill for product managers is intellectual curiosity. And the parallel skill, I would say, is problem-solving ability from first principles approach. So you throw, if it is truly rocket science, great. Like if you look at Elon Musk, I don't think he had any rocket science, literal rocket science background, but he was able to go solve the problem, figure out what are the constraints in that particular industry and figure it out. Solar, same. You know, he's able to go into many areas and figure out what the fundamental problems are from a first principles problem-solving approach, and he's intellectually curious. He, you know, as an example. And if you look at the most successful product CEOs of the world, they are super curious about what's going on, and they solve the problem from a first principles approach.
And they're technical enough.
Yeah, they're technical.
You know,
I don't think
it's like, I understand the question. I don't know the code behind it, but I understood the question, as opposed to a lot of people who come out from, say, sales or marketing who say, I need the product to be gooder.
Yeah.
You know, is my requirement writing done now? You know, we need something more where you can understand the question.
Exactly. And I also think that the technical, you know, I wanted from the same background, from the same, that's the purple squirrel he's talking about, is I almost do not want people from the same industry because they're unlikely to bring me insights and a thinking that's going to be giving me the experience that's vastly different for those people. The people in that have massive cognitive bias, that they're going to have this baggage. I almost do not want a developer in machine learning to become the product manager of the machine learning product, because that's the worst thing you can do, is all he or she is going to think about is the exact technical problem to be solved and have practically no empathy for the users of that product. So it's almost like I do not want engineers in product management. I'm an engineer myself, but I had to go through this huge education in the creative, you know, in the liberal arts field. So almost like you want to get somebody who has a strong liberal arts background or has high degree of empathy to, even if they had an engineering degree that can be hopefully erased from their brain, for the aspect of figuring out what is this customer, how can I get this empathy for the customer, and then stop for a moment. And this is the dance that they have to do and say, oh, I'm also a good structured problem solver. I can go draw this issue tree and solve this problem. Unless you have this dual, you have to have left brain, right brain thinking at simultaneously going, that's the product manager. Otherwise, you're just going to end up as a developer or you're just going to end up as a designer in your little boxes. Yeah. So a designer would have high degree of visual creativity, but not necessarily solve the problem. Maybe, maybe not. In the same way, the engineer can get the technical fastest way to solve it, but not necessarily think about the business aspects of it. So combining these two, that's the unicorn product manager, and not necessarily have the domain expertise. That can be learned. That's why the curiosity is important.
And that's the intellectual curiosity thing is critical. And I've seen so many. No, I won't characterize it. The best product managers are one who look for the answer outside the building, right? And I'm just truly amazed at the number of people I see who are like, I'm not allowed to travel. I'm not allowed to go anywhere. Right. So how can you be a product manager if you don't have market experience? And yet, what happens is they say, oh, yeah, I have lots of experience. I went on a sales call yesterday. Well, a sales call is not a customer visit. A sales call is a sales call. You don't learn in a sales call. Your mouth is open, right? You don't learn when your mouth is open. You learn when your ears are open, right? And I think engineers tend to say, well, I'm supposed to be the smartest guy in the room, right? So I won't ask outside the building for insight. But to me, that would be a key element, is somebody who has the intellectual curiosity to say, I'm not necessarily, I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I need to go observe, not survey, but observe people and their problems. And, we have automated tools for some of that. But
like Pendo?
Boy, like Pendo. Yeah, I was trying to work my way up to that, but there are so many wonderful automated tools, but nothing substitutes for personal experience. In my book, I'll ruin some of the book here for you real quick. My wife questioned whether I really wanted to put this paragraph in, but personal experience with the market is very much like sex. It's the experience you have personally is very different than talking about it or reading about it.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. And everybody's sitting back there going, I feel like I want to laugh, but I think I'm offended.
Well,
I'm not sure. I haven't had that first experience yet, perhaps.
I had a segue planned, but threw me
Hang
off
on.
my game.
Let me reset you a little bit. Just for fun, not only I live this product management life, but my daughter is now a product manager, and it's really quite funny that she'll call me and say this thing is going on, and I'll say, well, this is what you should do, but here's what you will do. Don't do what I said there. But anyway, she's certainly enjoyed learning product management at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I tend to talk about, she is trying to implement in her real life.
No,
does that give you any better segue to work from?
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Okay.
I was thinking, I have my backpack against the wall, and in my backpack I have my Mac, I have an HDMI cord in case I ever need to plug into a screen or something. I have deodorant and toothpaste just in case. You never know if karaoke's going to go out of control. Spend the night somewhere. But it's like my toolkit, right? It has everything I need in it for the day. When you think about a product manager, product person, VP of product, whatever it might be, what's in that product person's backpack? What are the tools, the resources? And Pendo is probably one of those tools for sure. I mean, a lot of people in this room, but whether it's platforms, what are some of those things that you feel like these are the critical go-to elements that would go into a product manager's backpack to make them a successful product person?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'll just want to pitch my software. So go to Under10 Playbook /Pendo. You probably have a better answer than that.
Sure. I have a ton of resources. I don't have the catchy link, the vanity URL that he has, but I'll put it on. I have a whole ton of resources. The quick answer for me is I'll share a Google spreadsheet with you that I shared during my workshop, and you can see. To me, the first thing I would think about is books. I am a reader, and if you think about, it's not possible. It's great if you can travel and afford it. Great, I'm able to go to whatever places because of my work. Great, and there are people that cannot travel. I would urge, reading a lot. Charlie Munger, everybody probably knows here, Warren Buffett's partner, talks about he doesn't know of anybody of quality that doesn't read books all the time. And so I think it's a great way now with podcasts, Audible books, all those things. If you want to read books faster, you can press 3x on Audible and process information faster. You can hear faster than speak. So things like that. I would first of all, I would look into what are the kind of books that you're reading. It's very important. There's a standard set of books, which I have a list. I'll share it in the Google Doc. In terms of tools, sure, you should use Pendo. I'll give them another plug. But understanding the funnel is very important for the product manager. Whatever tools, there are a wide set of tools. But truly understanding where users are coming from, what they're doing, right? We talked about the business design metrics. So having that very good focus on data, trying to understand those things are very important. And there's a tool every year. There's every month there's a new product. I have 6 products I can use for doing the heat map on all these tools are there. It's not necessarily a go-to, but the fact is, are you able to capture that information? Are you able to understand that information? And how are you presenting it, right? I organize these skills. The way I try to teach this is product managers should have maker skills and meta skills. There are two skills. Maker skills are the stuff that you can do yourself. Go and draw, to sketch. Can you go and do, journey mapping, right? These are all essential skills. Basic drawing, writing, mathematical skills, statistics. Can you go and, do basic statistics, right? Stuff like that. These are all very essential maker skills. Then you have meta skills. Those are the skills that you'd want to, those are skills that will make you a manager, right, of people. Skills about influence, right? If you want to get a client relationship with somebody, I want to hire somebody as a partner in doing something, stuff like that. So organize yourself across the maker skills and meta skills, and find you can do an inventory of your skills. What are you good at, and where you want to grow, and then put a personal roadmap, just like your product roadmap. Everybody's focused on product roadmap. Have all these release management, all these features, backlog, all that. But what about a product manager's personal roadmap? You have one, right? And so if there's one thing I would encourage people to go and sit down and think about maker skills and meta skills they have, and where the gaps are, and draw their personal roadmap for the next 3 months, right? I loved the first slide they had about you should at least meet these many people, have these many conversations, and 1 or 2 lifelong friends. That was ambitious. But those are the kind of things, if you have a goal around, what am I going to get out of this? Am I going to, you may be your best, there's this, anybody has seen Matthew McConaughey's Oscar speech, winning speech? That was, what did you hear about in that?
I don't remember what he said, but I just remember.
Yeah,
saw Matthew McConaughey.
Damn.
He talks about how he is always chasing a better version of himself 10 years from now, right? And so like that, what would be a better version of, I have to think every morning, what is a better version of myself? What am I going to learn today? And have that active. That's the only way product managers, and I think product managers have this unique role in this in their organization, that they are central, but don't necessarily have all the, hire and fire responsibilities of things, right? They hire and fire features or functions in the product and the product experience. And so unless that is embedded in them, they live and breathe that kind of a spirit, it's, all these tools, they come and go.
Yeah.
But who you are and a better version of yourself is the one that's going to stick. And I think of
so
all...
Elliot, what you're saying is, this is the most important
That's the
tool.
most important thing, yeah.
Always be learning.
Always be learning, yeah.
I love that. And by the way, the personal roadmap, that's something for me. I can implement that right away. That's something I hadn't really done before. I don't know what a card cutting session looks like for that, but I'd love to. That is something I will take with me, Prabhakar. I love that. Thank you.
Bravo.
Don't forget to have the conversation as well.
I know.
It's the card and the conversation, as well as
Absolutely.
the confirmation.
What I was going to ask you, Steve, anything, because our time is pretty much up. This went by really fast, which I think is a good sign. But any other things that you feel like to add on to that, or just sort of final advice for product folks that are thinking about their own careers, their own progression. We've had a lot of awesome feedback and advice already, but any sort of parting words?
One sentence from an executive turns into months of work for the rest of us. And so let me kind of finish with a story. I invented Scrum. I forgot to write the book. But anyway, in the early days, I had to develop something like Scrum, something like Kanban, to get the executives to just shut the hell up for a quarter. You know, it's like, we got it. Let me do some stuff, okay? And so I would encourage all of us to look at, to have some visible way of showing we're doing stuff. The column of information that is missing from most product roadmaps is what you've already completed. The job can be challenging because everybody's got an idea, and ideas are cheap. Turning ideas into action is the difficulty. So look for techniques where you can get stuff done and be able to share it. It's been my experience that the people in this room tend to be pretty poor marketers of the people in this room. So look for opportunities to communicate your value. I know your value, you know your value. Let's make sure your company knows it as well.
Well, Prabhakar and Steve, thank you so much for spending time with me. I know I learned a lot. And hopefully, Todd, hopefully I found my two friends. I don't know, maybe.
There you go.
But
Okay.
thanks again for that.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Thank you.